Good evening. Our Willow Springs Middle School pledge leader tonight is 8th grade student Cruz Casares. Cruz was nominated for this role because he displays our Lovejoy school spirit on a daily basis. He does this by encouraging and lifting up students and staff around him. He enjoys gaming, learning how to be a DJ, and makes an effort every day to show respect and positivity to his classmates. We're very proud of you, Cruz.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now for the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You're in the middle. Thank you, Cruz. Excellent job.
All right. Thank you very much for the pledge, sir. Next up tonight, our understanding recognitions. Never gets old. Cross country teams, I'm going to turn it over to the coaches in just a second, but I'm really going to rightfully so. We want to make sure that our kids get all the credit that they deserve, but I think our coaches deserve a lot of credit as well. You know, we can sit here and talk about all the statistics that the girls are 3-time state champions. Our boys, over the past 3 years, they won 3rd place, then 2nd place, and this year they won the gold medal. Our girls have won the state championship 5 times. Our boys 4 times, and we're one of only 4 state schools in the state of Texas whose boys and girls teams have won the state championship in the same year in multiple years, and that says a lot. But I think Carly and Logan would agree with me that this state championship in cross country is not a 1-year journey. That these kids start off running years over the course of many years, and they build a program. This is not a yearly something that we can celebrate for 1 year. This is a program that they've built, and that many of these kids have started since they were in 7th grade with us at Willow Springs Middle School. But the one consistency over this whole time is Coach Littlefield and Coach Kelly, and they put a lot of dedication, they put a lot of time, they put a lot of love into these kids. Whether it's summers and holidays, there's an expectation of excellence, and they expect that out of themselves, and they expect that out of the kids, and the kids respond to that. So without further ado, I want to say congratulations not only to our boys and girls cross country teams, but a thank you and a huge congratulations to Coach Littlefield and Coach Kelly as well.
All right, I'm going to call your names and just come forward. Peyton Benson, she is a senior this year. Cameron Benson, she's a sophomore this year. Bridget Bernal, she is a sophomore this year. Kaylee Littlefield, she's a senior this year. Campbell Lester is a junior. Kaylee Martin is a sophomore. And Sarah Moorfield is a senior. I just want to thank all of you all for having us and recognizing us. Thank you, Mr. Parker, for the kind words. We're very appreciative of everything that you all do for us, and the support of our community is really amazing. These girls, these guys, they work really, really hard. I could not be more proud. This is their 3rd state championship in a row. These 3 seniors have really paved the way and done a great job since they were we high. So it's fun to see them have the success, and then also to kind of pass the torch to these sophomores and these juniors. And we're excited to see what we can continue, and just super proud of you girls. Love you, and thank you all for having us. We appreciate it.
Logan, Coach Kelly. I want to say one more thing. I hope you don't mind, just about the boys. I've never seen a group last year at a state meet more disappointed than being the second best team in the state of Texas than the boys were. And from the moment that they received their silver medals last year, you know that there was only one acceptable end of this year, and that was a gold medal. And so that's hard to accomplish when that's your expectation and that's your goal. So kudos to you guys for setting the bar that high and then achieving that. So.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to introduce our boys team. First off, we have Henry Binion. Next, we have Will Carlson. Next, we have Caden Gary, Devin Moena, Joey Reed, Aaron Wimbish, and Nick Yared. Yeah, this is a really special group of guys. This is by far the best boys team that we've ever had, just depth-wise. There's a lot of guys that are not here tonight that have really contributed to our team's success, and something that we really take pride in. You know, cross country is an individual sport technically, but we as a program, we really approach it with a team approach, a team mindset, and it's really evident. It's just so much sweeter when you can win things as a team and we can do things together, and it's just so much awesome that we're able to win both boys and girls this year. It's just been a super special year, something I'm not going to take for granted. I know these young men and even these ladies over here are not going to take that for granted. So thank you all for your continued support, and super proud of you guys, and congrats on a great season.
Public comments related to agenda items?
No comments.
No public comments related to agenda items tonight. If you would, join me for our invocation. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this opportunity to come and do the business of the school this evening. Please bless us with wisdom and discernment and help us to follow your ways in making our decisions. Lord, just watch over us in this holiday season. Thank you for the successes of our kids. Pray for their safety and their continued excellence. In Christ's name, amen. Notification items, you have notification items in your board book 9A and 9B for review. Any questions on those? One new one we have tonight is notification of public information request report. That's a new report that you guys have. So hopefully you got a chance to take a look at that. Item 10 is the consent agenda. Any items you'd like pulled for review tonight out of the consent agenda? If not, I'd consider a motion to approve.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
So move Jason James.
Second.
Second, Julie McLaughlin. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Item 11 tonight is our celebration of learning. Dr. Tinsley.
Good evening. Tonight we are going to spotlight our school health programming and lift up the work of our school nurses. And I want to introduce Stephanie Krantz, who is our Director of Student Support. And this is an area that Stephanie has assumed some leadership roles this year of working directly with our school nurses in the programming, and has done an excellent job with coordinating and ensuring our nurses have what they need, information is disseminated appropriately, and is a great support. So I'm going to hand it over to Stephanie so she can spotlight and lift up some of the work that we're doing.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Tinsley. Welcome, board and community. I'm grateful for the opportunity to present really the wonderful work and the important role that our nurses play within our schools. So we're going to do a celebration of learning on student health. So when you look up school nursing, there's definitions from the National School Association of Nurses. There's the Texas Board of Nursing that has definitions, and they talk about school nursing being really this specialized role where you bring medical expertise into the educational setting for the benefit of students to have educational success. And so that sounds like a really broad definition. And really if you've been in schools, you know our clinics are super busy places to be. And that is just a sliver of what our nurses actually do. So these are kind of some of the big chunks that I've broken out just to talk about what our school nurses do. They're an important part of our staff training, emergency preparedness, immunizations, of course, clinic visits, medication. They help with care plans, and I'll go into some of these in depth, but really you see the clinic buzzing, and there's only so much you see going on, and there's so much more going on behind the scenes that our nurses are taking care of. And that's really what I'm going to try to lift up tonight. So what is school nursing? They are an important part of our staff training and our emergency preparedness. They support our life-saving measures on campuses. They train our staff on AED device use. They train our staff on EpiPen use and on the use of Narcan when we included that this year. So they make sure our staff has that information and knows how to respond in those emergency situations. They ensure all those equipments are intact and up to date and not expired. So they are checking regularly all of our AED devices, all of those life-saving measures to make sure that they are ready to go should they ever be needed. They help train staff in specific medical conditions that our students have and how to support the student. So they might do a level 1 training where it's general information about seizures or diabetes or anaphylaxis, but then they're going to come back and they might do very specific training on a student where they've taken the medical information from a doctor and they help kind of put it into lay terms so that the individuals on the campus who are interacting with that student know those students' needs and how to meet those needs within the education educational setting. So they are a really valuable part of our staff training and emergency preparedness. The second bubble is immunizations, and you probably have some awareness of this if you get a reminder that an immunization is due, or if you get a delinquency. Really, what they are doing is they are helping us to ensure compliance with public health. So we don't set the rules on how the immunizations that students have to come to school. Really, the State Department of Health does that, and then our nurses ensure that we're meeting those requirements. So they review and they enter immunization records for all of our new students who are coming into the district to make sure they're in compliance, and they have that communication with parents to let them know if their student is delinquent and try to help get parent resources if needed to get the student back to learning as soon as possible. They can also just serve as a resource to our campus administrators if they're unsure on the immunization requirements that we have to follow from the state health department. So what is school nursing? It's also clinic visits and medication. So I pulled some data points. Our campuses average over 3,200 clinic visits per year, almost 5,000 logged alone at Lovejoy High School. That means 5,000 visits to the clinic at Lovejoy High School by a student who had some type of medical need, a medication, something that they went to the nurse for. That is a lot of activity in a clinic. So it could be administering daily medications, episodic medications. If a student goes and they are still finishing their antibiotics and one has to be given at lunchtime, our nurses will make sure that those medications are given in a timely manner. They triage student injuries. They will help manage student conditions. They'll maintain parental contact and collaboration, and they will provide guidance for medications for field trips. So you think about it, all the field trips that we have that take place, those students, someone's got to review that student list and make sure that the individuals taking these students on the trip know the medical needs of the students and that they have the proper medications or any information at all that is going to be needed to address this student's medical needs. So what is school nursing? It's also care plan implementation. So what we have is our nurses will develop and train what we call individualized health plans or action plans. So when we have students who have medical conditions within our schools, they take information from doctors and they put an individual health plan in place. So every student's allergy reaction may differ, and the doctor may want us to go through a certain series. They may want us to try Benadryl, then an EpiPen. Same thing with diabetes plan. Every doctor might, and every student's diabetes situation might be different. So the doctor is going to provide that information to the nurse. Our nurse is going to help write that individualized health plan for the student, and they're going to make sure that those in our schools who need to know how to help this student in the event that we have something occur with their diabetes or with a food allergy or asthma, that they know how to respond and the steps that need to be taken for that specific student. So it goes down to the individual level. And the other thing they do is they will serve on academic committees. So if we have students who have 504 services or who are IEP entitled, who have medical conditions, we'll often ask the nurse to be a part of that committee meeting to provide that valuable medical perspective to the committee, so we make sure that we are taking account of what is happening medically with a student. So they serve on those academic committees as well. So what is school nursing? It's health screenings too. It's making sure on the preventative side that we've looked and we've checked hearing and vision. These are the required screenings from the state, all first, third, fifth, and seventh graders, and anytime first entrants to public schools in Texas have to have their hearing and vision screened within the first 120 days. We want to try to find students who are having those problems and get those problems addressed, because those can directly impact a student's learning. And any student who is, if they're experiencing a lack of academic progress, we might have our nurses go do a hearing and vision check just to make sure there's nothing going on with that, so that we could get a vision correction or a further hearing testing as needed. We also are required to do spinal screenings for our girls in 5th and 7th grade and our boys in 8th grade. And then the other screening that we are required to do is the Texas Risk Assessment for type 2 diabetes. And that occurs at 1st, 3rd, 5th, and 7th grade. So they kind of combine these screenings together. So these are part of our preventative public health program in the state that really school nurses help to implement. We try to locate students who are having any of these issues, and we try to get them the medical care and attention that they might need so that it could be addressed so that they're at their very best in the school environment. So what is school nursing? It's really all of these things. The words on this page. I have some parents. I'm not going to share their names just for anonymity's sake, but I'm going to talk a little bit about what these parents shared about school nursing and what it really means to them. So this one talks about our nurse at Sloan Creek, and she was so kind and professional no matter what medical situation was presented by her patients. She calmly addressed the issues with a smile and an efficient medical response. This same parent talks about how one of our nurses helped to identify a concussion on her son and really encouraged that taking to the student to the ER. So our nurses bring their medical expertise, evaluate that situation, and provide that expertise to our parents so that they can take appropriate follow-up action. So it's expertise, it's peace of mind. It's this one says, I'm so grateful to our nurses. They thrive in caring for our children and are always available when needed. Being a mother to a child with diabetes can be challenging and worrisome at times. Our Lovejoy nurses always make me feel more at ease, knowing that they are there and that they go the extra mile. All the love for our Lovejoy nurses. It's just, this one says, I cannot thank someone enough for taking care of my child in a school setting, and that's from a parent who has a child with a feeding tube. This one is, says, my daughter could not have successfully made it through middle school without the help of our nurse. We will be forever indebted for her compassion and care towards our daughter during some of her most difficult days. Our child has many health conditions that often make leaving the house pretty difficult. The nurse helped make it easier for our child to make it through the school day. I just can't imagine how different her middle school experience would have gone without that help. And we are so grateful to have a nurse who was there to ensure our child was being cared for and advocated for. This one talks about a student who had a knee surgery the first day of school, and the nurse was so understanding and helped get information to the teachers and the coaches, and made sure that that student was checked on and that the parent had information to follow up. This one talks about one of our nurses who was able to respond to a severe peanut reaction in one of our schools and kept calm and cool and addressed the situation, provided Benadryl, EpiPen, had an ambulance called, and addressed the emergency situation so that that child could get all the life-saving measures that they needed because they were in the middle of an anaphylaxis response. The same family shared how they had a child who was bitten by a dog in the neighborhood, had nothing to do with school, but the nurse checked on the bite and said, I think you need to go to the pediatrician to have a look at it. This one talks about another that just is a diabetic, and they had no idea when they entered school how important a school nurse would be to them until their child was diagnosed with diabetes in the 2nd grade. And they then value and saw how important it was to have that medical professional on our staff. And she says, we shall remain thankful to Lovejoy ISD for understanding the integral nature of offering competent and caring nursing support to our entire student body. So really, what is school nursing? It's these amazing ladies right now. They are the nurses that serve our campuses. So we have Elaine Sexton, Tammy Mitchell, Jen Slink, Jennifer Bussey, Tiffany Glover, and Amy Dresser. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to support them. And I just really believe that they do have a direct impact on our student success in our schools by keeping our students healthy and well. and ensuring that they are in the best possible place to be ready to learn and accomplish everything that we want them to. So thank you so much for sharing, allowing me to share. Yeah.
All right, item 12 to 9 is a discussion of board legislative subcommittee update. Ms. Julie?
Actually, Mr. Bobo will be taking us through it. You should have a copy board. We waited until the last minute to put this together just because things were changing so quickly in the special session.
All right, so your legislative subcommittee we completed this last go around. We authored and adopted board legislative priorities for the special session that just occurred. Authored and sent communication to Representative Noble and Paxton and Senator Paxton. Authored and sent communication to our Lovejoy community regarding our priorities. And we continued to monitor bill content and monitored what was happening in the third special session. So what is coming up and what we are doing right now is, while we're in the fourth special session, is we're continuing to monitor the potential impact to Lovejoy ISD, and you'll see that in the next couple of slides. So in the Senate side, 2 bills passed that were related to public education. We have SB 1 and SB 2. There's a lot of content in each of those bills, but a couple of things to pull out is that SB 1 is solely concentrated on the education savings accounts, and that is to provide $500 million in funding, $8,000 per student for private school tuition and related expenses, like uniforms and textbooks. It also provides $1,000 for homeschool students, and it's overseen by the Comptroller's Office. And the idea is that they would oversee this and cost the program no more than $40 million in fees. There's limited participation. It's kind of complicated how the participation works, but that's kind of listed there on that screen. I'll not go through all of those details. And of course, ESAs use public funds for private schools and ultimately reduces funding for Texas public schools. That bill was heard and passed fairly quickly, and it was referred to the House Select Committee on Education, Opportunity, and Enrichment, which is not long name for the Education Committee, and it has not been scheduled in a hearing at this time. So it's kind of in limbo. SB 2 was the public education funding portion of their bills that passed. And this increases the basic allotment by $75 per student. It would be nice if it were $1,000 per student, because that would actually make up for the inflationary pressure that we have on schools today. But that's not the case. It's $75 per student. It does provide a nice one-time teacher retention bonus of $10,000 per teacher in districts with fewer than 5,000 students, which is kind of nice. That would apply to Lovejoy. It increases the school safety allotment from $10 per student to $20 per student, and an increase per campus from 15 to 30,000. Now that still does not cover the original cost of the HB 3 that passed in the regular session, but that would be obviously a great benefit. Again, that passed. It's been referred to the House Select Committee on Education and Opportunity. On the House side, they actually passed 3 bills. Excuse me, they didn't pass 3. They debated 3 bills. 2 of those bills passed. HB 1 was debated on the floor just recently, and you may have heard some information about that, but that was the bill. So on the Senate side, they had 2 separate bills for both ESA and public education funding. In the House side, they actually put that together in one large omnibus bill. And so it included $10,500 per student and $1,000 for homeschool students to offset the cost of educations through an education savings account, again, administered in a similar way. The basic allotment was increased, so remember, it includes public funding. So the basic allotment was increased from $6,160 to $6,700. Again, still far short of the $1,000 that would need to account for inflation. It also had a one-time teacher retention bonus of $4,000 that converted into salary. And a nice thing about this is that it would include increases to the basic allotment to account for that teacher compensation. It did improve the residency program and raises the TIA between 3,000 to 30 and 36,000. It's a wide range there, but it's a little bit fuzzy in what that language is. It also includes a $750 million investment in special education funding, which is nice. That bill was debated on the floor, and an amendment was applied to the bill almost pretty quickly, and that was an amendment to remove the ESA funding portion of that bill. And that bill passed 84 to 63. Again, some Republican House members joined other Democratic House members to approve that amendment, which then removed the ESA funding. And at Buckley's request, who's the chairman of the Education Committee, he asked that that bill be referred back to his committee. It was also heard, I'm not saying that this is necessarily the case, but it was mentioned that he probably would not schedule it into the committee. So this bill may be dead. The other two bills were House Bill 2 and House Joint Resolution 1. And that's related to school safety. And so what they do with this one is, remember, there was school safety allotment passed in the regular session. It repeals that school safety allotment and establishes two new grant programs and adds $1.3 billion in funding. This is really nice. So instead of having an allotment, you're actually a defined allotment, you're actually going through applying for grants. And there's two of them, the School Safety Grant Program and the School Safety Plan Implementation Grant Program. And they also said, hey, we can let you use this for fentanyl awareness program, which we all know is a serious problem. That bill passed 145 to 2. It's now open to be considered by the Senate. Related to House Bill 2 is House Joint Resolution 1, which is a constitutional amendment that would create the fund to support HB 2. So it's a little bit more complicated. Again, here are our representatives. We have Senator Angela Paxton and Representative Candy Noble. And here's our House Education Public Education Committee members for your reference in case you want to contact them. Is there any other questions or comments?
So I think in terms of next steps, we would have maybe a week left on this particular fourth special session. At this time, we're not sure what additional movement these bills will have. So we'll be watchful to see that. And then I guess it remains to be seen if the governor would then call potentially further special sessions.
One question. So I assume if nothing passes this legislative committee, are they going to wait? And I assume they wouldn't call a fifth one. What are your thoughts?
Well, the governor has specifically said that he's going to continue to call sessions until this particular issue passes. Now, whether or not it will pass or not is a different story. I will say this, that it's about 21 Republicans that joined other members of the House to approve the amendment to defeat ESAs. That's actually down a little bit from the original 24. So don't know if it's working or not, but I will say this, a lot of people have really been very vocal about their support or non-support of vouchers or ESAs. And so I'm not sure if he does what he says he's going to do, yeah, we're probably going to see more special sessions.
Thank you for the update. Item 13 tonight is the state A through F accountability presentation update.
Yes, I'm going to have Mary Mullen come up. She is our Director of Secondary Education and Assessment and Accountability, and she's going to help assist with co-presenting this presentation. I've been bringing forth just the information about the delays in the state A through F accountability. Normally we receive our ratings in August, and we're at a point we have still not received our ratings, and we want to kind of give you some background on where the state is right now with the accountability ratings. So just a reminder that we were notified in September that there would be a delay. This was after we had not received our ratings in August, and that there would also be a delay with the accountability manual. And some of this was kind of due really to revising the goals and basing this on, they had previously proposed an average of the 2019 and 2022 data, which they did not end up doing. And the why with this was just because of the inconsistency with the data. Also, during this time, there were numerous districts that sued Texas Education Agency because of the proposals that were coming forward with the way that the ratings were going to be redesigned in districts. So there was a temporary injunction order put forth that is now in place. And so basically what we're hearing is that they will not be issuing accountability ratings until another order is issued by the court. So Mary is going to share some more information about, the manual was released recently, and then we also have gotten some data from the state that we wanted to make you aware of.
Yes, so immediately after the filings and the ruling came out, then the accountability manual was posted for 2023. And in that manual, it does give methodologies, the new methodologies for calculating performance and accounting ratings. But as a reminder, even though the manual is out, the issuance of ratings are not released and won't be released until a final rule that is pending currently or subject to change based on judicial ruling or decisions from the 80th legislature during that specially called session. So just a reminder, even though the manual's out and we received raw scores, we still do not have a grading or any type of scale score. The manual does include designations under federal accountability for RDA. And this is something new this year. Slowly, the state wants to integrate RDA into accountability. And the first step is to really embed that RDA manual in with the accountability manual. So in response to the judicial impact, the state did release what they're calling what-if ratings, and also some underlying data that's used to calculate ratings based on the new methodologies posted in the 23 manual. I'll start with the what-if ratings. What they did was they took the scores from the spring of 2023 and the new methodology that's posted in the manual and calculated what our accountability ratings would be using the new method on the old data, and said, this is what would have happened if this new methodology was in place back in the spring of 2022. That's the best way to say that. So they released that information on in the beginning of November to districts, and they are basically, it's new methods on old data, and it doesn't replace the official ratings that came out in 22. They just want districts to see what would have happened if the new methodologies were used. The second report that came out on November the 14th really were our raw scores. So if you think of accountability, there's two pieces to it. One piece is the calculation of raw scores, and that's what's been released to us, our performance. And the second piece is really the scaling then of the raw scores, and that's where the grades come in. And they take the raw score, sometimes they call it a component score, and they scale it to what they feel would be a more appropriate level for the public to be able to interpret how school districts did. So again, this is all based on the new methodology in the 23 accountability manual. And again, The issuance of the A through F ratings under the final rule is still pending, even though this new report came out on the 14th. That really means nothing until the final ruling is put out. So I just want to reiterate and be really careful that everybody knows that we have a manual. We have some what if things that were posted to us and the districts to use. I should say reports, not things. But it's still, nothing is final until the final ruling is made in order, or it goes to trial and an order comes down in February.
So as a district, what we are doing, that's the importance of our balanced assessment plan, because this is lagging data anyway that we were receiving. So with the balanced assessment plan, we have our formative assessments that are just where teachers are doing checking regularly, where it might be just a quick check for understanding, quick quizzes. Then you also have some benchmark assessments and unit assessments. Of course, we have the MAP growth assessments that we put in place. We're going to do our second round of MAP testing after the winter break. So we'll have some more data then. So we've got systems in place for real-time data so that we can adjust instruction to meet the needs of our students.
And then the composition of our accountability score includes STAR scores, right?
Yes.
So just I want to reiterate from my own understanding, there's been quite a bit of change this year then, because we've changed the composition and the rigor of the STAR test, and we've changed the rubric by which districts are measured.
Yes,
from
the
an A through F
calculating
rating.
methods. You are
Right.
correct.
So
They
this-
came up with new tables, everything, and then you have a totally redesigned assessment too. So there's so much variability between what happened in 22 and what happened in 23.
Okay. And based on your review of our what if scores or the raw data, do you see any dramatic change for the district necessarily?
It really didn't affect us too terribly. I know that, like we talked a few meetings ago about the big changes for CCMR. We still performed pretty well there, so that really didn't affect our district that much. So yeah, our raw scores was very good.
Other questions for Ms. Mullen or Ms. Tinsley? Thank you very much.
I guess one quick one. So I guess some schools are suing the TEA to stop this because I guess it negatively affected them.
It could have a negative impact on their district rating with one of the major changes because of and I guess, Mary, the best way to describe that is that if they had, it was a high school rating, could be impacting. So if you had some schools that had different ratings, like an A or a B, it could impact the whole district rating. So that was probably one of the primary areas that lifted up some of the concerns.
And it's about 100 school districts in Texas, and the concern being that being evaluated using an accountability system that was developed after the assessment was taken. So those school districts, or all school districts, not having the benefit of understanding the expectations, the accountability rating system prior to the assessment taking place.
It's required by state statute that if you make such changes as that what were made, that school districts know at the beginning of the school year. So they're saying it's unfair that we did not know these changes were coming down already in the fall of 2022. That's the basis of the lawsuit.
Thank you. All right. Item 14, presentation, House Bill 3 goals update, early childhood literacy, early childhood math, college, career, and military readiness, and proficiency goals and performance objectives.
Okay. What I want to do is just do a quick review before we get into our district and campus improvement plans as a reminder of the House Bill 3 goals that the board adopted last year. We are required by statute to have detailed plans and quantifiable goals in the 3 areas, which include early childhood literacy proficiency, early childhood math proficiency, and college and career military readiness. Again, some of this data because of the delay in the ratings has been impacted, but we wanted to kind of give you some a view of what we do have and the progress that we're making. So just a reminder too that the only grades that we look at are third grade for the literacy and the math, but that also requires us to have goals in kindergarten up through second grade. And because those are the grade levels that are preparing our students for the proficiency at the end of third grade. And it must be aligned to assessments that assess reading development and comprehension. And then this is the area here that because of the data, we don't have it. It's pending, but we can share what we do have at this point. But college and career and military readiness, we look at the academic proficiency on the ACT, SAT, TSI, AP, and dual credit. Also career ready, which is completion of the industry-based certification and special education workforce ready assessments that we administer, and then military ready. So each goal must have a baseline and a target future state, and you'll see that as I review the goals in just a minute. The annual targets must be included to a 5-year target, and then the board is required to adopt the goals and progress measures. So goal 1, early literacy, is the percent of third grade students that score meets grade level or above on STAR reading will increase from 81% to 87% by June 2025. Goal 2, the percent of third grade students that score meets grade level or above on STAR math will increase from 76% to 85% by June 2025. And then goal 3, the percentage of graduates that meet the criteria for CCMR will increase from 94% to 98% by August 2025. So to give you an idea of where we are, if you'll look at our, this is the percent of third grade students that meets grade level or above on STAR reading. In the 2023 results, we had 82%. And we had a target of 83% of our students. Then in the area of kindergarten, we had a target of 79% by 2023 that were reading on grade level or above, and we had a percentage of 77%. Some of this area in here that what we have been looking at is just some consistencies in the assessments that we are giving and how they're being reported, and we're doing some cleanup with that and some retraining with our staff in that particular area that we think will help get some better data on that. Also, you'll see here we had 80% for our first grade students, and we had 76% that were showing that they were on grade level or above. And when you hear some feedback from the campus improvement plans for Hart and Puster, the principals will lift up some of the strategies that they have in place to address this. Second grade students reading on grade level or above will increase from 86% to 90%, and we hit 89%. And so that's the literacy. For math, third grade, we had 86% of our students that met grade level or above on STAR math last spring. We had a goal that the percentage of kindergarten students that would score meets or masters on the end of year math assessment would meet 80%. We had a 96% meeting our masters. First grade, we had a 68%, and we had 84% on the end of the year math assessment. And then we also had a significant increase in second grade students on the end of year math assessment as well. So college and career, the reason I highlighted here with this, we don't really have any data on this. So that was our target of 95%, but we don't, because of the state accountability, we do not have that data that we can report on this. So we are continuing the same strategies that we have put in place as far as the meeting those progress measures. And so it's just until we get more information, CCMR is kind of on hold right now. So just a reminder, you approved the goals in October of 2022. We have included those goals in our campus and district improvement plans, and will continue to implement strategies and progress monitor and throughout the school year. So, and again, we do believe our balanced assessment plan will give us some more real-time data of the performance of our students too, because we really have tried to make that more robust than what we've had in the past.
Questions before we move on?
So are we changing our HB3 goals then? Are we going to revise them? No, they
No,
stay exactly on track.
This was to provide you the progress on
The
it.
back, okay, thank you.
And I would say the areas that if we all lifted up anything here, we're looking more at the reading in kinder, first and second. We are looking at adding some additional resources, instructional resources, and to ensure that our teachers have what they need. So, and that was part of the, last year, if you remember, we were doing an inventory and a needs assessment. And so we feel like that what we've added this year, and we're also looking at some other tools that we do think will enhance that. And as a reminder too, we have the MTSS leads on the campuses now, on both of those campuses, that are providing tier 3 interventions for our students that are struggling readers. And that's in addition to what the teacher is doing in the classroom.
So that leads us into item 15, which is consideration and possible action on the 23-24 district improvement plan goals and performance objectives.
Correct. So we are required annually to present this to the board for approval. I just want to go through and remind you what the role of the district improvement team is and how the plan is developed. It is under Texas Education Code that there is a planning and decision-making process. We have a district level planning and decision-making process, and then also campus planning and site-based decision-making, and that is board policy BQA and BQB that outlines that. The purpose is to have a collaborative approach to improve student achievement outcomes for all students, and the committee serve in an advisory role to enhance the learning environment for our LISD students. The teams are comprised of representatives from district, campus, administrators, teachers, parents, students, business representatives, and community leaders. And these committees develop the plans and approve, make the recommendation to bring it forward to the board. So what I'm going to share with you in just a minute are the goals and the performance objectives that have been reviewed and proposed from the committee. So the makeup of the district and campus improvement team's composition, 2/3 must be teachers. We have parent representatives, we have business representatives, community members, and district staff. And again, that is all outlined in policy BQA and BQB. The roles is that they serve in an advisory capacity, as I mentioned, looking at planning. We look at staffing, budgeting, organization, curriculum, and staff development needs for the district and the campuses. And these are the intended outcomes that we are reaching for in our decision-making process is, number one, improving student achievement. We have an effective planning process in place. We involve community stakeholders. We have accountability measures that we put in place and hold ourselves accountable to. It's also to improve communication and information flow from district to campus and community. It is a collaborative decision-making, and then how we're using our funds to achieve our performance objectives and goals. And again, it is a continuous improvement cycle that we are constantly looking at our data and our student performance and we adjust that throughout. So what you'll see in our plans is that we always look at a needs assessment that's looking at hard data, student performance data. We look at qualitative data and feedback. We identify those areas of improvement. We do take our goals that are driven by the five board goals that are adopted by you, and those are what we work with under here in Lovejoy. And I think it provides great alignment for us from the board all the way down to the campus level. They also, each goal has performance objectives at the district level and the individual campuses. Strategies are included, and then progress monitoring measures are in place. And then we also look at funding sources that we need to tie to those performance objectives. So just a timeline, what we did with our committee met October the 24th, and we always do a training and review of the responsibilities of the committee. We reviewed draft of goals and performance objectives, and we provide any district updates. We will come back, we are presenting this tonight for your approval. Generally, you're going to see this a little earlier in the year because we have our school ratings at that time. We did not have that, so that's why it's pushed back a little further. We kept thinking we were going to receive those ratings. We'll come back as a committee to monitor the progress, and then we'll do the same in May. So, and then we'll come back to you at the beginning of the school year in 2024 to give you an update on our progress. And hopefully there'll be a rating system in place at that time. So I'm going to ask the help of our cabinet members because everyone is responsible for certain areas of the plan. Just a reminder, these are members of the committee that we have. They serve a 2 or 3 year term. And so we do try to publicize that we have, like we do have right now, a community representative opening that we do need to fill. But so the campuses do the very same thing. They have, it's very much outlined like this. Wanted you to see the members. So goal 1 is academics, which is the board goal about student achievement. And I'm not going to go over all of the performance objectives. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer any of those, but I want to lift up a couple here. Of course, we are required to include House Bill 3 goals that I just went over, and that is performance objective 1 and performance objective 2. And we did lift up social studies. That is an area that our student performance has been lagging. And so we did keep that in as a performance objective to continue to work on and increase student achievement in that area. I want to lift up on the next page is the balanced assessment plan. So we did want to ensure that this was an area that we were working on to support our campuses in. And you'll see that embedded through our professional learning communities framework. That's what we do, the way that we look at assessment, because that drives decision making on what goes on in our classrooms. And then of course, our daily attendance, we've got to have kids in school in order to serve them. So that's goal 1. So before I move into goal 2, does anyone have any questions about any of the performance objectives that we are proposing for goal 1? Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Of course, goal 2 is culture and that legacy of excellence. And we know how important culture is in any organization, any our district. That's the values, the beliefs, those attitudes and behaviors that we all practice. And as we see, as we recognize kids and staff, it's obvious how important that is into our district, and just being here and the success of kids that we've had this past month or so is very exciting. But also looking at staff members, some of the performance objectives that we focused on, and if you remember, this plan was created with everyone, all stakeholders. It talks about create feedback loops between staff and HR to engage in collaboration for a continuous improvement. That's super important for us. So we are trying to do everything we can. We're trying to be approachable. We're visible. We're doing stay interviews this year. All the cabinet members and our principals are checking in with new staff every month, making sure what you need, how can we help you, what can we do to help support that legacy of excellence there. And also being on campus, getting feedback for administrators and principals, but and as I said, doing like our school and team huddles where we're visiting campus, sharing what's going on in the district and providing feedback there is something. I'm going to, there's another one that we're highly focused on performance objective 3, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later in my cabinet update. I'm going to go into a little bit more details there. But something else that is super important is retaining our staff, but also being very intentional and getting great talent here. And that's something that is a high priority on our list because we know it's a competitive market and we want to get the best of the best. We want to get someone that fits into what we believe in. So we are very focused on networking, making connections with professionals, people that we can recruit and also keep here. We're very intentional with what career fairs we go to. What we need, input from our principals of what they need on their campuses to perform those teams that we can do to support our staff. And also just some easy things that, and I'll talk a little bit about those later, but just making sure and checking back with staff through surveys for supportive staff and our customer satisfaction, employee satisfaction ratings are real important with us. So goal 2 basically is all about culture and HR. Questions for me?
All right, so for goal 3, it's focused on continuous improvement and financial sustainability. And within this goal, we're looking at not only looking at operating efficiencies that will address some of the potential expense reductions or cost savings, but also really focusing on looking at how operating efficiencies can also improve our ability to generate revenue. So for instance, this year, Mr. Parker has worked really hard and implemented an online platform that allows us to book facility rentals. So the efficiencies of moving this to online allows us to create transparency that allows different entities and individuals to see what spaces we do have availability, which brings in more potential rental income. But then we're also looking at operating efficiencies within our business service team, looking at how we manage our accounts payable and our accounts receivable. So when we think about our accounts payable, instead of just getting an invoice and paying it right away, we're looking at, if it says due net 30, net 60, we're actually going to wait the net 30, net 60 and pay that so we can hold on to our cash so we can get investment income. But then also we're working towards implementing and changing our credit card provider. Our current credit card provider does not look at or does not offer up rebates or cash back. And what we're looking at is implementing a new credit card that will allow for revenue generation and getting that cash back. But then also leveraging that as a payable mechanism to hold on again, to extend our payable additional 30 days to hold on to our cash for additional investment income. Any questions? I'm going to visit just a second about goal number 4, which is parent-community partnership. And I think one of the things that we can all agree upon over the last few years since Ms. Cordell has become superintendent is just the increased transparency that we've had with the district, the communication that we've had with our community. And that's something that we want to build upon what she has begun and increase our transparency, increase our communication. And with a thought in mind to create even more experiences for our students. And I think one great example of that, which really feeds into performance objective 1, is to explore and establish partnerships with some of our community members. And I think the My Community Credit Union is a great example of how we can partner with some of our community, some of our industries, our local industries, to provide experiences there for our students that we've not had in the past. We also want to build on our alumni network. We want to create an online presence to where we can reach out to them for some of their expertise because they've not only gained a great education here in Lovejoy, but they've gone to attain even greater experiences in their postgraduate world in their life to be able to bring back and share those experiences here with us. And we want to take advantage of their successes that they have. But really I think the umbrella here is to continue to build partnerships with our community, to build off our parent partnerships, and the experiences and the expertise that our parents have, to be able to bring that in and again, partner with our students, provide them with experiences in our classrooms and our extracurriculars that we can give them an experience that they wouldn't have otherwise. And I think that's one of the things that makes Lovejoy special and unique is we have kids who they want more, they're craving more, they want real life experiences, they want real life circumstances where they can have an experience in high school that really puts them in a position to learn even more when they go to college and beyond.
Good evening. So if you look at goal number 5, safety and security, I'm just going to hit on a couple of areas that I think you and the community, along with our school district, will see echoed throughout, both prior to this school year, during this school year, and we'll continue to see moving forward. And that is the constant moving the ball forward of looking at ways that we can continue to grow and be stronger in the area of safety and security, specifically at the campus level. And that's done through training, through exercising, through communication, and then also through building those relationships with first responders and internally with our school marshal program. So if you look through each of those performance objectives, you're going to see that those are all intertwined and they hit each of those areas. And I would be happy to answer any questions that you have on the goal or the performance objectives. Thank you.
So hopefully what you'll see is that the performance objectives really bring the goals to life of how we're going to try to achieve those goals and achieve the goals. So as I mentioned, this does require board approval of the district improvement plan. So at this time, I'm asking that the board consider approval of the 23-24 district improvement plan.
I'll make a motion to approve the 23-24 district improvement plan.
Second.
So move Mark Wheelis, second Marvin Bobo. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 16 is the presentation of the 23-24 Campus Improvement Plan Goals and Performance Objectives and the Annual Progress Report.
Okay, I'm going to ask the principals to join me in this presentation, and they are going to lift up some of they're not going to go over all of the performance objectives with you, but again, you're going to see the very same goals. A lot of their performance objectives do mirror the district plan, which is an alignment piece that we're intentional about. But there are some specific strategies that they may be doing on their campus to achieve some of those performance objectives. So we're going to start off with Hart Elementary, and Ms. Shannon Acosta, our interim principal, is going to share with you.
Hi, good evening. I want to highlight some of the performance objectives that Dr. Tinsley actually brought up too, that we are taking very seriously at Hart, that are our focal points, especially in the area of Goal 1, academics. At Hart, we're focused on all of our students making academic growth based on their individual needs, with an intentional emphasis on our third grade students increasing their performance on both math and reading STAR to meet grade level or above, and also increasing our kinder through second grade students reading on or above grade level at the end of the school year. We have actually established a protected time where we bring the teams together for collaborative learning, where we meet with each grade level with our leadership team and our MTSS lead, where we focus on all the PLC questions, but particularly how we respond when students are not learning, and how do we extend the learning to those who are already showing proficiency. Through the CLT time, our teachers have been provided time for intentional planning on priority standards and model highly effective instructional practices to our teachers. In third grade, we have focused on building the capacity of our teachers to plan and deliver highly quality instruction during guided math and strategy math groups. Also within our CLT, we have also built the teacher's capacity on planning and delivering interactive read-alouds in all grade levels using highly engaging books in response to raising our students' performance on crafting constructive responses. Through this modeling and planning, teachers are delivering interactive read-alouds K through 4 that focus on building their students' ability to read, think, and write about text. We're also beginning lab sites this week in the areas of math and reading. We're using our data from balanced assessments and formative assessments to continue our work on January 2nd, where we will have a high focus on small group instruction. We will be dividing the teams up into K through 2 and 3 through 4, where we can strategically plan with them and show them the benefits of intentionally planning based on balanced assessment data. From these, we are going to do learning walks as we follow through with that planning and that PD that we provide for the teachers. We have found that the collaborative learning time that we have provided for the teachers have been highly effective, and they are like sponges because they are taking and applying what they are learning from our lead MTSS into the classrooms. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Haynes is going to lift up some of the work that they're doing at Puster.
Good evening. I'm also going to focus on Goal 1, academic student learning. That's what we're all about. All of the goals contribute to the awesome environment for students to learn, but we know Goal 1 is heavy on the academics. In our plan, objectives 1, 4, and 10 are focused on reading for 3rd and 4th graders, as well as our K2 groups of students, and increasing that reading performance. Objectives 2 and 5 are math-centered. And some of the strategies that we're using to address both math and reading include an additional planning time that our teachers are given on rotation about every 4 to 5 weeks. We're calling that a data dig time, but it's an opportunity for our teachers to really dig into the data and to review most recent common formative assessments, to look at groups for intervention and enrichment, and then to plan for those groups, to really have a specific time set aside just for planning those small intervention groups. We've also implemented a Kid Talk structure. We have our second round of Kid Talks coming up tomorrow. We'll meet with our teams of teachers. It's really just a time to problem solve with all the brains necessary in the room, to have some conversation and to get ideas from teammates who may have worked with the concerns similar to this in the past, and have some ideas to bring forward before we ever get to the point of going to the problem-solving team. And then we have changed our PST structure this year to include all members of the grade level team once again. We have our MTSS lead in that meeting, special education teachers as needed, dyslexia therapist, administrator, counselor, anyone, speech teacher, anyone who may be able to help us with our goal setting, ensuring that we are setting specific goals for students and that we are progress monitoring and ensuring that gaps are being filled once they've been identified. Objectives 3 and 6 are new for us this year because of the change in the structure to the STAR test to now include the written constructed response as part of the reading assessment. We tanked that, to be completely honest with you. That's not just a Puster issue, that's a Texas issue, but we're not happy with our results on that specific part of the test, and so you'll see goals there. We know that this is not a problem solved in just 3rd and 4th grade. It's a K4, something that needs to be addressed K4. Right now, what we've identified as areas that our students struggled with is typing skills is one of them. And so we know we need to shore up those typing skills sooner than 3rd grade. We don't want an inability to be familiar with a keyboard to keep our students from showing what they know. We also have, every grade level has a grade level writing goal that they are progress monitoring as a part of our T-test appraisal tool, and we see that that is vertically aligned across the campus. Goal 7 has to do with our emergent bilingual learners, so our students acquiring English. It's a very small pocket of students on our campus, about 18 students right now. However, we are not meeting the target in academics with that particular subpopulation on our campus. And so that is an area of focus, and our teachers are implementing great strategies, but we need to be more conscientious about targeting that particular group. And we're doing so through some kind of mini trainings on campus around language acquisition strategies for teaching, as well as ensuring that we are using those specific strategies during leopard time enrichment and targeting that group of students. And then Objective 8 has to do with increasing academic performance of our students in special education. That is also an area where we are not satisfied with our performance currently. We are in the second year of implementing the co-teach model. It's not perfect. We're still refining what that looks like and improving. However, we are seeing that our students in special education are in the classroom more when maybe they would have been pulled out in a resource small group. Therefore, they have more access to the grade level content and grade level curriculum and more time with their peers. It really looks like a teacher could see a small group that needs to be pulled quickly to the back. I'm going to pull them, shore up what we were just working on, and they jump right back in with their peers. So we are we're anxious to see what our data looks like as a result of implementing this model. Ensuring that our special education teachers have planning time with the general education teachers. And then we have strategically implemented a second leopard time in our master schedule. And what that does is allow our students who do receive pull-out services to still have yet another opportunity at some point in the day to receive that tier 2 instruction with the teacher in the classroom, which in the past, if students were pulled, they were pulled during leopard time, and that was their one chance, and they may not get that additional intervention support. And I think that's it. I think we're at the end of our goals. Thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Rollins is going to give you some insight on the work that they're doing at Sloan.
Thank you. Good evening. I too would like to start with a focus on the academic goal in our area of academic achievement. So you will notice that goal, performance objective number 1, is that pulled up? Has to do with the workshop model of instruction. It states that Sloan Creek intermediate teachers, on that first slide, yeah, will implement a workshop model of instruction to ensure rigorous lessons, cooperative learning, small group targeted instruction, and high levels of learning for all students. That is a change, a mindset shift for some of our teachers who are kind of still used to that lecture model. But we know that research shows that this type of learning with that targeted small group instruction during every class period, not just during that leopard time that's set aside, having that small group or even one-on-one time with a teacher right there in the classroom is so beneficial. And we know that that performance objective is going to help us meet performance objectives 2 through 5, which are all based on increasing the levels of meets and masters on our STAR assessments. Performance objective 8 under the academic goal is another one that's going to help us meet those academic STAR goals, and that is that staff will be implementing multi-tiered systems of support for all students using our branching minds that is proving to be an amazing tool that's allowing us to target instruction, have it documented in a succinct place, and set goals for students to make sure that every single student is receiving the targeted instruction that they need and mastering every single standard that teachers are bringing forward. I would, in addition to the academics, I would like to just touch on goal 2, the culture and legacy of excellence. Performance objective 2 is around a growth mindset, specifically for our staff. We are introducing some new things this year, and there is, new leadership on campus and some changes being made. And so we are focused on that growth mindset and that, best today, better tomorrow. We will continue to improve and help all students achieve success. Performance objective 4 around T-tests, that is going to be the tool that really helps our teachers visualize and put into writing and bring to life that goal setting and just the continuous improvement in their practice and in their student performance. And then finally, just for fun, because we're having so much fun with this one, performance objective 5, our positive behavior initiatives and support this year at Sloan Creek was new. The PRIDE acronym, and having so much fun celebrating students and their successes in all of these areas. And our new Celebrate Sloan, if you haven't had a chance to come visit one, our next one is December 14th. And we will be focusing on the letter R, which stands for respect. It's been a lot of fun seeing the students just embrace our PRIDE expectations and then rewarding them in turn and celebrating with our staff, our students, and our community as they come celebrate students with us. So, any questions about anything going on at Sloan? All right, thank you.
Ms. Eldridge?
Good evening. I'm really excited to lift up some of the great work of our campus improvement team. You'll notice that this year in our academic performance objectives, we have added several performance objectives for IEP entitled students on our campus. We want to specifically track if our students are meeting the bar and exceeding the bar of grade level performance on STAR, and we added those accordingly to each subject area. For goal number 2, culture and legacy of excellence. After our professional learning in July with Solution Tree, our leadership team got together and formed a guiding coalition. A result of that guiding coalition was a staff commitment agreement that we wrote together. This is done in order to hold us accountable as the adults in the building to adjust our behavior as needed and to uphold our legacy of excellence and model that for our students. We wrote this statement to include items such as open and honest communication between staff members, innovative instructional strategies, high levels of learning for all students, meaningful student feedback, and solution-oriented conversations and meetings. We'll continue to progress monitor throughout the year and lift each other up and hold one another accountable for those behaviors as staff within our building. Thank you.
Dr. Zambezi.
All right, going to go over a couple things for the high school. And one theme that I wanted to kind of point out from the start of this year directly relates to the PO, which is PO2 that I'm going to talk about under Goal 1 of academics. When you look at Coach Kelly in cross country, when you look at Coach Littlefield in cross country, and then when you look at Coach Puckett in state volleyball that we just won, they won because, they won the games and things like that, but underneath that is the really strong culture of what they built, and that directly relates to our high standards of being a professional learning community under Performance Objective 2 at Lovejoy High School. In order to get these really high functioning learning environments and these future-ready learning experiences for our leopards, it's imperative that we have educators that we train and have professional development, and we empower to work interdependently from everything from backwards design to how we're going to teach it, growing each other, to responding with those common formative assessments in our balanced assessment system, to breaking down that data from our CFAs and leading to strong intervention groups. And so we have a lot of performance objectives under the 5 district goals here, but at the end of the day, that professional learning community culture that's district-wide is extremely important at Lovejoy High School, and that's what I wanted to lift up first. And then lastly, we're actually going to go to the most important thing, which is Goal 5, safety. And I want to talk about Performance Objective 4 and a really cool tool. So as you know, under Ms. Cordell's leadership and then partnering with Casey Littlefield, Cal Percival, we have really done a great job of getting out new and effective duty schedules and practicing standard response protocol, which is an industry standard for the best way to keep your school or your facility safe. And in there on PO4, a really cool tool, Raptor, which Mr. Littlefield has helped me and Mr. Montag roll out at the high school. We now have an app on our phones where we can quickly initiate drills. We can quickly communicate with our staff if we need to, and we actually went over that in our last staff meeting. And so not only did we implement a lot of these things last year, but now we're even kind of putting the icing on top of what can we do to even be safer and communicate even more effectively. And so I wanted to finish up with our most important thing, keeping our kids safe on PO4 with safety and security. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to lift up the work of our principals in leading this on the campuses. You just got a little bit of a peek inside of what they're doing. I really want to commend them for the work that they have led. And there has been some change this year, and it's been, so to lead that and to see the results that we're already seeing, it's due to these 5 people back here in the back of the room. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further questions over the presentation? Board? Great job. Thank you. I'm going to take a quick couple minutes here to run to the restroom. All right, we'll resume the public meeting and we'll go into item 17. Consider and act on the 24-25 school calendar. Dr. Tinsley.
Once again, we brought the calendar back and wanted to just review a little bit on how we develop the school calendar. Of course, the first thing we look at is instructional minutes. 75,600 instructional minutes, of course, is a requirement from the state. We also look at the start date and when other districts are starting, and thinking about that 45 days prior to the first day of instruction, which is that penalty phase that our teachers, they cannot resign 45 days from the first day of instruction. So we try to align that with other districts around us. And then looking at priorities, and this actually came up at the PTO council meeting, because there was a question about, it looks like we get out a week earlier in May, but that's because Memorial Day week, the Monday Memorial Day holiday is a week earlier, and we do graduation. So we have Kevin's actually the person that does that, but we have a contract with the Allen Event Center for that weekend for, several years for graduation, and it's that weekend. So it looks like we get out a week earlier in May, but we look at that. And we also look, because we have kids in dual credit, Collin County Community College, when is their spring break? Because this year for 2025, it's a little bit later. And so we want to line up with them. So if our kids, can get off at the same time and with those instructors there. And also we felt like this year, or this new calendar that we're introducing to y'all tonight, has a better semesters are balanced, 80 days in one, 84 in another, which is more balancing, especially at the secondary level where you're teaching courses, and some may be a one semester course and not a full 2 semesters. And then also Lori's going to talk a little bit about giving feedback opportunities and where we shared this calendar with and who had given us some of those opportunities there.
So we presented a draft at the October board meeting, regular board meeting, and we received some feedback. I would say that was either through emails. We saw some comments on social media, some questions that maybe came up. It was not a significant number, but some of the feedback that we did receive, it was the number we had on that calendar that was presented in October. We had fall break, and then we had 2 days following fall break, that one was a professional development day and one was a teacher planning day. I think the concern there is that that's a long period of time for kids to be out of school 7 days there. Also, we had kind of mixed feedback on November 1st being a student holiday. We did check to see if that student attendance was impacted on that day, if it was a negative impact. It was not a negative impact from what we have from historical data for staff nor students. We received some feedback on minimizing the Friday student holidays during the fall semester, particularly when we have football games. And does that impact our attendance at these Friday night events? We did see some financial impact with that, with ticket sales on the days that kids were not in school and the attendance at those games. Also feedback on start school later, and as Anna pointed out, that we have to stay within a time frame to get the number of minutes, and then also being able to embed in school prior to Memorial Day. Some people said they didn't really see the need in fall break. Also some feedback that some student groups still had to come to practices during fall break or spring break for fine arts and athletics, and then a comment or two about considering a 4-day school week. So that's just a summary of some of the feedback that we received. So what we did, we looked at 3 calendar options. One was a calendar that was brought to you in October, and then there were 2 other options that we kind of adjusted based on some of the feedback that we received. We wanted to get it in front of some stakeholders, and so these were the groups that we did share the calendars for input on. Our district improvement team, because that represents staff, parents, and community and business leaders here in our district. We got it, of course, in front of our campus principals and our directors. Teacher Superintendent Council, which is a representation of staff. And then the Lovejoy PTO Council, this was the 3 options were presented at that time for feedback as well. So what you have there in front, you should have a copy of what we are recommending to approve for the 24-25 school calendar. And just to lift up some changes from the one that was shared, the draft that was shared in October in the October board meeting, is that we did change the 2 days in October that were the 21st and the 22nd as being a professional development day and a teacher planning day. We moved those. We moved one to November the 1st, which is a professional development day, and we moved the other one to November the 11th. And then we also moved a September the 23rd for a teacher planning day, and then December 20th would be a teacher planning day. So we tried to look at, based on some of the feedback, where we had our student holidays. I think the area that we were struggling with during the fall semester is being able to avoid Fridays where students were not in school. So no changes to the spring semester, and no changes to the number of days per semester were either, so.
I have a couple questions. Could we confirm that the start time and the end time of the school day is unchanged from the current year?
Correct. The
That's
start
correct?
time would be the same, that we would ensure that we would meet the 75,800 minutes.
Okay.
600
And
minutes.
with the first day of school starting on the 8th, if I'm just wanted to reiterate, the detriment to pushing that back would be that we would be out of alignment with other districts in terms of the offering of teacher contracts. Is that correct? Okay. And when would Alphabet start for childcare? Do you have any idea? If that's too detailed, we can delay.
We haven't determined that, but I think we can, for sure, when our staff starts back, we would want it to start on the 29th of July.
Okay. So potentially that first 3 days before school starts potentially would be available for parents for childcare. Okay. And last one, do we have an understanding yet on when our football games are, or our band competitions or anything like that? It'd be difficult to plan around that at the moment.
That's the challenge that we have, is that we don't really receive that information until about March. I do want to lift up as well some of the feedback and the data that we've collected on the addition of the teacher planning days that we did put in place for the school year. We did an initial survey and about 96% of teachers were in favor of it and felt like it had achieved the goals thus far as that work-life balance. In fact, we had some teachers on the November, I believe it was the 17th, the day that was a teacher planning day, that were actually up here. They were scheduling parent conferences because they had childcare and they didn't have to do it in the evenings, and they could accommodate parents during the day. So, and we had teachers come up. A lot of the time they're still coming up to the building and they're meeting with their teams.
We also, of course, are still monitoring the data for student attendance and teacher attendance, and we are, this time last year, 58 school days in, we were 1 percentage point higher for student attendance and 1 percentage point higher for teacher attendance. So we're at 95.9 to 96.8 and 95.2 to 96.2. So we want to continue to monitor that.
Will we still have leopard time? Because I know there was an issue and the state came back and said, I guess it would be a hardship. So how are we taking into account that?
The plan is, and that has even been adjusted since that initial communication. The state has come back with the CTE minutes that we reclaimed leopard time again at the high school as a result of some of the changes. So
the plan is to have leopard time in our schedule next year. And we have prioritized that and certainly heard that from our administrators and teachers. What was also very validating is I meet with our high school students through the Superintendent Student Connection Council, and they have made that very clear of how much they value that time.
Other questions from the board? I think mine have been covered at this point.
Can you speak, I know we made the adjustment on fall break on the Friday and Monday prior and after to move those. Spring break, it looks like we still have those Fridays and Mondays piggybacking to make a real long kind of 9-day off period almost. What's the reasoning for adding those on the both ends of the spring break?
Well, the 14th is a teacher planning day, and that we're hoping what that will do also is it'll help with our student attendance because we tend to have students that will leave the Friday before. The 24th is a bad weather makeup day, is what that we are required to build 2 of those in. So we thought that that would give, if families were traveling, get back on that day. So that's why we put the bad weather day on the 24th, and then also on the 21st of April. There have been some previous calendars that we had that earlier in the year, like in February, and we had to use them. So one of the reasons we tried to push us later in the spring so that we could hopefully accommodate that way.
If there are no other questions, I'd consider a motion.
I just think we've gotten some feedback that there weren't opportunities to give feedback by the community, and I think the community has reached out. A lot of people have, and I think given creating additional drafts, going through a very thorough process, meeting with lots of different constituencies to allow them to give feedback, I think this has been a very good, thorough process, and there's never going to be a perfect calendar, but I think we've worked very hard to create something that was very thoughtful. So I appreciate the work.
Yeah, to Jason's point, I don't have a question, more of a comment though, but I understand you're dealing with a lot of competing interests, and we saw that even from the emails we got from the community members that everyone had their own issue that affected them, and so I know you're trying to balance all those things. I hate that we start school as early as we do. I understand why that's necessary because of the competitive advantage that we need in order to lock people into contracts, sooner rather than later. And I will say that the legislature attempted to address this. They had a bill which nobody talked about and never went anywhere, but it was a bill that would say you can't start school before this day and kind of create the 3rd week of August, something like that. It create a uniform playing field amongst districts. That would have been nice, but it didn't get done. So and of course Memorial Day happening a week earlier this year kind of limits our options as opposed to last year. So I think the goal of trying to make everybody happy is an impossible one, but I think y'all have done a good job of trying to make the most people as happy as possible. So thank you.
I think the timing of the board meeting last time, the day after Halloween, probably had a pretty big impact of getting November 1st off. So I think that was good.
I'll move that we approve the recommended calendar as presented.
So moved, Jason James. Second, Mark Wheelis. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. All right, item 18 is to open a public hearing on the Financial Accountability School first. We'll open the public hearing at this time, being 8:50. Do we have any public comments at this time?
Good evening. No, there are no public comments at this time.
We will keep the public hearing open until the end of the presentation, and if you would proceed.
Okay. We do have a couple of copies of the financial management report available for the public. So if you were unable to print it out, we do have a couple available Are they? Okay, so Rodrigo has them right up here if anyone's interested in them. So tonight we are presenting on the results of the School First. The School First is the financial integrity rating system of Texas. This is a rating for the 22-23 year, but it is based off of the audited financials and data from the 21-22 year. So there's a lag of a year. The reason for that, the 22-23 audit was just completed and approved by the board in October, and we just submitted it to TEA. So it takes them a little bit of time to get the results of the first rating based off that submission. Those districts, since we're a June 30th district, we submit in November. But for those districts that have an August 31st year end, they won't submit until January. So it gives them time to submit all their data through January, and then for them to review it and release preliminary in May or June. Perfect. So the purpose of the School First is for financial accountability. Within the School First, there are a number of indicators the state measures for all districts, and these indicators add up to a score that leads to an overall rating, which we'll review here tonight. So we have some reporting requirements as part of the first rating. So we are required to prepare and distribute an annual financial management report and also hold a public hearing to provide an opportunity for the public to comment on the report. The first report makes up of 3 categories. Indicators, the School First indicators are broken into 3 categories, which are critical indicators, solvency indicators, and then financial competency indicators. The sum of those scores will result in a rating, one of the 4 ratings, A being a superior achievement, B, C, and then all the way to an F for a substandard achievement. So there are 20 indicators, and then the sum of the points, as you would expect, would then tell you where you land within the ratings of the A through F. So a 90 through 100 would be an A, and so forth. The 20 indicators, not all 20 indicators have a numerical value. Some of them do have a pass, fail, or yes, no. So they don't necessarily add up to the total 100 points, but they do create a ceiling at which you can reach if you do not pass those indicators. So for instance, if you score perfect in all the numerical values, but you fail one of the yes, no, then the max you can receive would be for like one of them, maybe a 95 or an 89. So here is the results of the 20 indicators. So the first 5 indicators listed here are associated with the critical indicators. So as you can see here, of the 5, only 4 were rated. The 5th one was not rated again for the second year due to some accounting changes implemented by the GASB. But when we look at 1 through 4, you can see we did pass all 4 of these, and these are tied to kind of the audited financials that we submitted timely within 30 days of the due date of November 27th. And then also we received an unmodified opinion in our annual financial report. And then the next 2 is mainly around timely payments. So we made our debt payments in a timely manner, but then also payments that were made to other governmental agencies such as the TRS, teacher retirement, and our sales tax to the Texas Comptrollers. So the next 9 indicators that we're going to review are associated with the solvency indicator. These first 5, very similar to the previous slide, you can see that of the 5 on here, only 4 were graded. Indicator 10 was not graded. This has to do with the school district's average less than 10% variance when comparing budgeted revenues to actual revenues over the last 3 fiscal years. There's been a lot of variance throughout the years related to COVID. So this was something that the TEA decided not to grade for, again, for another year. So when we look at the first four indicators, of the four, we passed or received max score on 3 of the 4. I highlighted indicator 8 to indicate that this was a change year over year. This is related to measuring our current ratio, which is current assets to current liabilities. What this indicates is it's supposed to represent the district's ability to pay their short-term obligations or obligations that are due within 1 year. So this was a decrease from last year. Last year we scored an 8 in this indicator, and this year we scored a 4. The reason for that is that we did, in 2021, we did issue $5 million of debt, but we also did a refunding where we restructured our debt to push up some of that principal payment in order to pay off some of the debt early. So even though this resulted in a reduction of 4 points in the indicator, it ultimately, this decision saved the district in interest costs over $19.5 million. So the 4 remaining here of the solvency indicators are tied to some more, the first 2 are tied back to long-term liabilities and total assets. Again, the highlighted one is a change from last year. This is actually one that we improved. Last year, we ended up with a 2 out of 10. This year, a 4 out of 10. It's also highlighted in asterisk because previously 2 years ago, based off the 2019-2020 data, we automatically received a 10 for this because we had experienced 7% growth over the past 5 years. Unfortunately, last year, the 2020-2021 data was the first year where over the past 5 years, we did not experience that same growth, which resulted in a score of a 2 out of 10. And then the last 2 where we scored perfect is mainly tied to that our administrative cost ratios are less than what the threshold that TEA provides. And then also our student to staff ratios are aligned with the decline in enrollment that we've seen over the past few years. And then number 12, looking at this, we scored an 8 out of 10 over the past few years in this indicator. What we do believe is that we already know how we ended the year for the 22-23 because we just completed the audit. So we can plug into the template to kind of see where we're going to improve in our scores for next year. This is an area where we'll improve. We'll receive the 2 additional points because our property values and our debt payments are going down while property values are going up. So we'll receive full 10 points on that one for next year. So here the remaining 6 are the competence indicators. As you can see, only 2 of the 6 are numerical. The others are ceiling passed or ceiling failed. And again, in this one, there's one that is not graded, which is number 15. It's based off of the allotted range of the district's biennial pupil projection. So we provide the state with a projected enrollment and attendance so they can develop their budgets, and they compare how we actually ended to that projection that we provide. So again, I think this is tied to COVID and the impact that COVID had, that we're not being graded on numbers that we had provided due to that. So again, in this indicator, we maximize and maximize all the points, the last 4 indicators. So for the 22-23 year, we ended up with a score of 86, which is a rating of a B, which is above standard achievement. And when we compare that to the prior year, there's a reduction of 2 points, but still we maintained the B score, which is above the standard achievement. And again, the change is really due to the 2 that I highlighted, the reduction in indicator 8 and the increase in indicator 11. So there are a number of disclosures the district is required to provide as part of the School First Financial Report. These disclosures are related to expenses incurred by administration and the board. It is provided in the handout that we have here tonight. So here's just a list of all the different expenditures by board member and administration. And that is all I have. So any questions?
When do you anticipate, are you able to have any projections on those 2 areas where we scored the 4 out of 10 on when you expect those to improve?
Yeah, I've looked at that, and over time we will improve. There are certain factors that could influence and improve it, but it would be in the short term. So for instance, when we look at the assets, current assets, cash in general. So if we go out and we issue a bond and we get like let's say the remaining 9.5, that will increase our cash balance by 9.5 million. We can't use that to pay debt. We have to use that on paying, for infrastructure and facilities and everything, but that improves our ratio. So we would improve by 2 points if we had that cash, $9.5 million cash, so long as that our debt service didn't increase by like 3.5 million. So,
But that would make this number look better, but financially, it's a bad financial decision. There's some things that are more important, like was the school's district administrative cost ratio equal to or less than the threshold ratio? We got 10 out of 10 on that. I mean, I look at that more than, your current assets, where, yes, if we increase our net assets, we're going to have a better current asset ratio, but then we're keeping money in the district and we're not spending that money to improve student outcomes.
While we're paying debt service on it. The same token goes for refunding these bonds and paying them down early. We're being penalized by paying down our debt early in those ratios, as opposed to keeping that money on hand and paying as amortized to keep it in cash. So while we have a B in those categories, I think to save 19.5 million and receive a B rating, it's a trade-off that I'm willing to accept, and it's counterintuitive to intelligence, quite frankly. I'm glad you asked the question, though, because I think a lot of people would want to know the answer to that. All right. Any other comments, public comments on the public hearing before I close it? Are there any other presentation materials you have for us, Thomas?
No, sir.
So we've covered item 18. We've covered item 19 as the public hearing. At this time, we'll close the public hearing, which is 9:03. All right. Item 21, consider an act on bond funds. Mr. Willman.
All right, so keeping it going. Just want to provide an update on our 2021 bond series and the current available amounts, and then discuss a couple of projects that we would like to proceed with the use of bond funds. So the initial issuance of the 2021 bonds was for $5 million. So we'll review, so back in May we did present, so we'll review, back in May we presented a list of needs by the district and the request of the use of those bond funds for these purchases. We started off with the $5 million, and through the end of March of 2023, we had spent roughly 2.3 million of that 5 million on these different projects. So athletic projects, safety and security projects, and then technology projects and updates, building updates and maintenance. We brought forth in March of 2003 to approve the remaining, what we thought at the time, roughly a little below $2.8 million for instructional materials, continued technology infrastructure and equipment, and so forth, custodial equipment, maintenance equipment, and so forth. So when we look at those total costs and kind of where we're at, so through the end of, so over the 2-year period through the end of October of 2023, we have investment or interest earnings from that 5 million of roughly 163,000. But then we've also had projects that came under budget. So when we brought forth the projects in March, we said not to exceed a certain amount. And due to that, we've also did not exceed. The projects have come under budget from those dollar amounts, resulting in an under budget of roughly 242,000. So that left us with roughly 305,000. In the current year, we have brought forth 2 items that you had approved related to traffic safety at our schools, and also the HVAC replacement at our transportation and facilities locations. So that is leaving us with roughly $196,000 for us to use on projects.
I got a quick question, Thomas. I should know this, but I don't. So we sold $5 million in bonds. That's the 5 million.
Yep.
But then it says interest earned. When you sell the 5 million, though, wouldn't we be having the debt expense?
We're paying interest, but because we put the cash in an investment account, we're able to earn interest on it while it's sitting in that account. So we're earning. Yes, but we're able to use the interest earned that's amortized out. Yeah, and the 5 million, we've shortened out that amortization. It's only over three years, so we're pretty much paying that off this year. But that's cash that's given to us as far as earning that we can use on projects.
Part of why our ratios are on that first report are reflected as such.
So the couple of items that we've identified is, so one is over at the Lovejoy High School in the competition gym. The basketball goals, we do need to replace the winch motors and cables for that. We anticipate that the project is going to cost roughly $12,500 for that. And then also addressing some safety concerns at Puster, the school playground, and then just doing an addition of a perimeter fencing around the playground area, which would cost us roughly $55,000 for that. And we're utilizing Titan Fence and Supply Company for that. Mr. Percival, is there anything that you would add to those projects?
Were these bid out to the suppliers?
Because the overall cost is below that threshold, we don't have to go out for bid. But we could leverage our existing co-ops.
So today we have 196,000 remaining, and after this expenditure, we'll be down to 120-ish.
That's correct,
Okay.
yes.
Is there any other major repair that we need to anticipate that by approving this, we're bypassing our ability to take care of that particular maintenance item?
We looked at everything as far as, cost of everything and prioritization of items. We don't believe, but I'll let Mr. Percival add on to that.
That's a really good question. So these are items for the remainder that we have available funds. But we're also working on some additional forward down the road as well as summer and more long-term.
Okay. If there's no further questions, it's the recommendation of the administration that the board approve the safety and security related projects as presented in the amount not to exceed $70,000 through the use of bond funds.
Other question, terminology might be wrong, but the authorized but unissued bonding that we have available, is the 5 million the total?
No, so the authorized unissue remaining is 9.5 million.
So
the
if we
five-
have other capital projects to fund, we have 9.5 million of authorized but unissued bonds that we can use in the future. This is of the $5 million bond sale and the balance owed.
Yep.
Just want to confirm what my memory thought it was.
Right,
Thank
that's
you.
correct. Yeah, great question.
Other questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I move that we approve these bond projects as presented.
So moved, Julie McLaughlin.
Second.
Second, Jeff Wood. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. All right. Ms. Cordell, item 22, presentation, the 23-24 Capital Planning Committee update.
Good evening, board. You will find this presentation on page 242 of your board book. On your iPad, it may be 233. Looking at the Capital Planning Committee, we wanted to provide you an update which tied directly to the district priorities that you approved this fall for the 23-24 school year. Looking at number 4, Lovejoy ISD will strategically plan for the safety and security of students, staff, financial sustainability, and effective operations. If you will recall, our Lovejoy 2030 strategic planning initiative that involved many stakeholders included a focus on our operations function as well. You'll see here an operations strategic target that was developed as part of that strategic planning process and is in our strategic plan as strategic target 4.2, looking at our existing facility space, how we can utilize it for stronger collaboration and making sure we are efficient and prepared to support students in their future learning needs. So strategy 4.2.1, multi-use collaboration spaces being a focus. Strategy 4.2.2, touring and benchmarking against out-of-district high schools, universities, really all school levels, elementary, middle is important as well, industry partners for those future-ready collaboration spaces. And then also strategy 4.2.3, implementation of an operations capital improvement committee, which we launched this past spring. So here's some background. That committee was formed in the spring of 2023. We did meet on May 4th and May 11th and covered a presentation on school finance and debt services. We also looked at a capital needs assessment. We had partnered with PBK Architect, who was responsible for the construction of our buildings, on conducting a capital needs assessment, making sure we had an understanding of our current state, anything that may be at end of life or need to be addressed immediately or in the near future. We shared that information with the committee. And then we discussed capital asset management and planning for the future. The committee has been on pause due to the legislative session and some pending legislation that was part of this that required voter approval at the November election. It was in fact approved as we anticipated because what it was a homestead exemption increase from the $40,000 to the $100,000. Obviously, a big part of our capital planning committee process includes the bond capacity side of things, and we want to make sure the committee is well informed and that we are working with current information. We are excited to be able to continue to resume this work and have all of that information at the table. If you'll recall, our purpose of this committee is to develop a clear vision for our physical learning environments, our capital assets, including capital planning priorities, timeline, financial implications. The Capital Planning Committee will study district capital needs and recommend priorities for a possible future bond election. And also what was discussed here this evening, the use of the remaining 9.5 that has been approved but not yet authorized. So moving forward, Capital Planning Committee, we are looking at meetings in the spring of 2024, starting in January. We're not sharing publicly those tentative meeting dates tonight, but we have established those, and those will be sent to you as well as the committee members. We are going to be covering school finance on the INS side and bonds, facilities assessment, demographic trends, tours of our schools and facilities, tours of schools and facilities in other districts, our vision for physical learning environments, capital needs, as well as capital planning priorities will be all a part of this process. We have our existing capital planning committee, but as Kevin Parker talked about earlier, our commitment to making sure we're involving our community as much as possible, have that stakeholder voice at the table. We want to expand that committee size for this opportunity. And so we'll have that committee membership, but we would also like to extend the opportunity to the members of our Lovejoy 2030 Strategic Planning Committee and the Financial Sustainability Committee. So what we intend to do is send a letter out to these groups, let them know the plan, let them know the meeting dates, and ask for their RSVP, ask for if they would like to remain as part of this opportunity and continue with the work together. Once that committee has been established for this spring, we of course will share a public update with you and share publicly that list of committee members. Thomas Willman, our CFO, is going to update you all on the financial side of things so that you have this as part of the picture as well.
Thank you, Superintendent Cordell. As Superintendent Cordell mentioned, part of the committee and moving forward with this understanding kind of our bond capacity, and what's impacting that is understanding what is our plan for the 9.5 million, but then also the timeline associated with the legislative session and the decision related to the homestead exemption increase of the 40 to 100,000. So what we have here is just a draft timeline on how we're going to issue the 9.5 million. What we're looking at right now is we've already engaged Samco initially, but we'll further engage in February. And then we'll bring a preview of the issuance in March for your approval in April. And then we'll hopefully be able to complete the sale sometime in May, end of May. So that way we can kick off some of the projects in June. The issuance and the debt schedule for that 9.5 million, but then also how we're leveraging some of our fund balance in INS to pay off existing debt will impact our bond capacity for future use. Another piece of it is during the second special session, again, the increase in the homestead exemption impacted the amount that we would collect. So since that's going to be less, we need to have a better understanding of what that means for us to pay debt in the future. There is a component in there also where they're going to hold districts harmless for debt that was authorized, not necessarily issued, but authorized by September 2023. So the 9.5 million would be part of that calculation of the hold harmless, and they don't anticipate to release that until sometime in February. We can reasonably estimate kind of what we think that hold harmless will be for us to be able to determine our bond capacity, but in February we'll have firm numbers to be able to incorporate to see how we can leverage some of the state funds that are coming in from that to help support that.
Thomas, one quick comment. I'd probably get with Kyle to figure out what projects will be done, because some of the long lead items such as electrical switchgear are still over 52 weeks. So you'll just need to take into account, a lot of times people are doing early procurement. So just take that into account.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you for the presentation. All right, item 23 tonight would be cabinet reports. Dr. Tinsley.
I just want to give a quick update what our staff did on November the 16th. We had everyone together for a district-wide professional development. This included all instructional staff, professional staff, and also our administration, counselors, and instructional paraprofessionals. We did our second day of Yes We Can, and the focus of this is really looking at our collective responsibility and ensuring high levels of learning for all students, with a particular focus on students who receive specially designed instruction through special education services. So it looked at that joint responsibility and our core beliefs. So we had groups of about 10 people at a table that was made up of general education teachers, special education teachers, support staff, and we identified and looked at the 6 core beliefs, had a great day of learning, and identified some strengths that we have in that area and some areas that we need to work on. So I just wanted to give you an update on where we were with that.
All right, so on the finance side, so we're back at monitoring our monthly collections. So the month of October was the first month where we began collections on the new tax year, the 2023 tax year. So we did collect 186,000 in the month of October. From a percentage of collection, slightly down, about half of what we did this time last year. And then when we look at the original 2023 tax levy where it shows the 49 million, that is based off of the certified roll that occurred in July. So when we look at the supplements and the adjustments, this over time, as they get new information, they incorporate adjustments. Most of this adjustment is tied to the increase in the homestead exemption, so that our revised tax levy is down to 45 million. And real quick on a student nutrition update, again, when we're looking at our program revenues for student nutrition, we're slightly down through the end of October. There's been the same number of days up to this point at this time last year through the end of October. What we're seeing is that the participation just overall is down. We can attribute some of the revenue down. We have enrollment down. Even though participation is roughly the same, slightly lower, the fact that enrollment's down, that revenue can be anticipated to be down as well. The overall cost of the meals will probably be down as well year over year. We'll dive in and provide an update and next month to kind of project out where we think we're going to be and if there'll be any surplus in student nutrition again this year that we can support the general fund on. We also want to provide an update on the kind of the value of the teacher planning day on November 1st for our student nutrition staff. We use this as an opportunity to really do a deep dive or a deep clean in our kitchens. So this is the staff over at Huster doing a deep, thorough clean of our kitchens, but then also using the time to be able to do some safety training and making sure that they're up to date on all their trainings. And then again, this is the staff over at the high school doing their safety trainings and a deep clean of the kitchen. Thank you for your time.
Thomas, can you remind me when we'll have an update on the comptroller's contesting of the CAD values?
That's a great question. I had reached out right before the break, the Thanksgiving break, to Brian over at Collin County, and they had not heard anything yet. So I reached back out again today saying that my understanding was that they were supposed to have a ruling within 30 days and the hearing was October 17th. So we're well past that 30 days. So I'm waiting on a response from him. So hopefully we'll have an update here soon on that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good evening. Just wanted to review, I spoke of this earlier when we were talking about our district improvement plan, but also this ties in directly with Lovejoy 2030 and our goals there. We talk a lot about non-monetary compensation and some things that we can do for our staff. And I want to give kudos to John Korb and Diana Salak. One thing that we talked about was having just a staff resource portal. We didn't have that here. Many districts do have that, but we wanted to look at ways that we can support our staff just to make things helpful. We just didn't have a landing page for things. And so they helped us to create this, and it's got C&I has a portion of it, transportation has a portion, there are many other things. But some of the things that we needed to do is we needed a place to put what were our benefits for, were our employee handbook, just simple HR documents, information for FMLA, those types of things. Trainings, vector alerts, all of those types of things. And so they helped us create this portal for us so we can log in and go to the portal and use all of these resources that we have here. One thing that was a goal of ours that the HR department had never done, is we were looking for just, what else we would put in that portal. And something, I don't know if you're aware, but like every employee in the district everyone's on a calendar. And so some calendars are, 177, some are 226. It's crazy. Okay. How many teachers are on 187? And so just everyone we would spend so much time looking for what calendar you're on, and then looking up what job that is and putting that in a spot that everyone could find what calendars were. So we shared this. We got lots and lots of great feedback from our staff about it, for that information in there. We also wanted to look at things that we could look at, just discounts, and we shared this with. We started just calling places that we knew that gave teacher discounts or employee discounts, and signing up for those, and just creating another spot that would provide discounts for our teachers. We filled out Working Advantage and those are organizations that a lot of our other businesses and companies have. And so I went through TRS to Active Care also to see what they offered. They offered a lot of just like some free counseling, financial advice, different types of things, and just putting all of that in one place. All of these are live links that employees can just click on and go. What was also somewhat interesting is when I sent this out, our employees were sending me things to add to the list. Like, I didn't know we could get into the Arboretum free. I mean, what a great advantage for our teachers. So just creating a landing place for some of these types of things. And that's something that, throughout the year we can update and also work on, just to add some other things. But those are some things that we're working on in our department there. And if you have any other to add, please let us know. We'd be happy to add them.
Yeah, a lot has happened since I created these slides. We created these slides about a week and a half to 2 weeks ago, and there's been a lot, like I said, a lot's happened in volleyball. If you haven't heard, we won our 10th state championship. And it was a pretty resounding victory. We beat Lamar Fulshire in the state semifinals and then beat Liberty Hill in the finals. And we'll be able to celebrate our volleyball team at the December board meeting here in just a few weeks. So we're super excited and happy for our girls and our volleyball coaches. We're also in the middle of a deep playoff run for Lovejoy Leopard football. At the time, we had just finished the first round, the by-district round of the playoffs, and beat Pine Tree here at home. We then played Ennis in the area round and played Texas High last week in the regional semifinals, which we won out in Pine Tree, their stadium. And this week we'll play South Oak Cliff, who's been our nemesis the past 2 years. And we play them at Choctaw Stadium, which is the old Texas Ranger baseball stadium. This Saturday at 3:30. So if you have an opportunity to come out and support our football team, it's a great venue. There's no doubt it'll be a great game against South Oak Cliff. It's always a great game against South Oak Cliff. They're a very talented and well-coached team, so it'll be fun to watch. And of course, we're hoping for the best outcome. This week, we also start our Fine Arts Festival. If you'll remember, we have a different format, which we highlight a different program each night, at least one program each night. It runs from Tuesday through Friday of this week, and then Monday and Tuesday of next week. We also have our visual arts gallery at the high school open each night that we have our Fine Arts Festival. So we've changed this format for a few different reasons. One of them is to highlight the excellence in each program, to show kind of the growth and the growth from when they enter our program, such as a 6th grade orchestra student, all the way into our varsity orchestra students. You'll be able to see that progress on the orchestra night, as well as the choir and the band nights in each one of the programs. So we're really excited. Marty Ball, Jacqueline Simone have put a lot of work into organizing this, communicating this, getting the word out, as well as our different program directors to be able to put a great product on the stage on their respective nights. So we hope that each of you can come out and see at least one, if not more, nights of our Fine Arts Festival 2023. We'll get some feedback on how this new format is, and we'll report that back to you as well. And finally, for transportation, We have we're finishing up our first semester, of course, with transportation. We sent out an email just before Thanksgiving break to all of our bus riding families that spring fees are due by December 15th. So we're collecting fees for the spring semester. Those will be due on December 15th. And we'll have some updated numbers for you as far as our ridership numbers for the spring semester that we'll be able to share with you, because we're updating some of those. We asked for anybody who is not riding for the spring semester to please let us know, because that will open up. We do have a small wait list for the spring, so any of those who are declining bus service for the spring who may have ridden in the fall, that'll open up a seat for somebody new, and we'll be able to fill those vacancies with somebody who's on the wait list. Any questions?
Just a couple of quick updates surrounding our district support services. Just real quick. So taking advantage of those, again, teacher extended planning days on November the 1st, our custodial team that are housed over at the high school had an opportunity to participate in our standard response protocol training, along with our Raptor emergency management training that you've kind of probably heard spoken about a little bit tonight. Casey has presented on it a handful of times. But what makes this group unique is that we do have a third shift at the high school. So if we did need to go into a protocol, there's no one there to make a PA announcement. And so this gives them the ability to receive and send notifications that are surrounding any type of emergency situations, so that we have the ability to communicate to them remotely if needed. So that especially for that third shift, but this is also in alignment with the rest of our campuses and our teaching staff. The guys over in maintenance and grounds are still hard at it, out working on the wiring. We have lots of wiring opportunities in our parking lots with those pole lights. Some of them don't rest on top of concrete footing. And so sprinkler heads, rain, just some of the water tends to erode those bases and gets into those wiring harnesses. And then you see Juan down there working on a windscreen over at the baseball, softball fields at the high school. This is just a shot. We have lift stations around the district. 3 of our campuses have lift stations where the sewer goes into a lift station, and then from there it goes over to a sewage system. This is a shot of the one over at Lovejoy High School. It went into an alarm, and so sometimes it just takes a reboot, and that was the situation here. And here's kind of an internal look down that long, looks like a well. Probably wouldn't want to get to the bottom of that one though. But that one's out near Estates. When you come in on that west entrance, you see that fenced off area, and that's exactly where this is located. So just a shot there. The guys are trained and can go out there and problem shoot a lot of the trouble that those systems give us. And then here you see a shot of Leopard Friday, Regan and George having a good time there, but also getting out and being visible within Leopard Friday and really coordinating with staff and rubbing elbows with the community. Those guys always have a smile on their face. I think this photo here, they're actually waiting on the refs to come out so they can be escorted out to their vehicles after the game was over. This is prep for Leopard Friday. Again, those marshals had lots of setup to do just by way of safety. And then of course our custodial team had an integral part in setting up there in preparation for that event as well. On that November 1st Teacher Extended Planning Day, this is just a shot of the Marshall team. Casey was in there leading the charge as well. And this was an external response to active shooter event. It's called a race. And so they were able to take advantage of that time, the gift of time on that Teacher Extended Planning Day on November the 1st. They really utilized those days for lots of additional training, which has been really, really great. And then this last slide, Casey and his team have been going around and we're really working to standardize some of our signage at our campuses so that we're speaking the same language. We've got some uniformity so that regardless of where which campus you visit, you should see standardized signage that's also consistent and up to date. And that is all for district support services. Any questions? Okay, thank you. Superintendent Cordell.
Item 24 is the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Well, I started the school year talking about the science of hope, but I thought tonight we would talk about the science of gratitude. I don't know if you realize this, but there is scientific research that correlates gratitude with increased general well-being, increased resilience, strength, social relationships, reduced stress, and even reduced depression. And in some studies is associated with a longer lifespan. So I have to say that the investment that our PTO and our community makes in the Lovejoy letter writing campaign is not just something that's soft and fluffy. It has really deep and impactful consequences for every single member of our staff. So if you're not familiar with this and you're listening this evening, this is an initiative that began several years back. I believe Amy Smith was an integral part of the formation of this tradition where our parents, community members, and students write letters of gratitude to every single employee in the district. And on the day before the Thanksgiving break, every employee receives a manila envelope filled with those personalized letters of gratitude with very specific things that they have done to have an impact. And when Ms. Koenig talked about our focus on non-monetary compensation, I think we'd have to put this in that category, and then also in the category of one of the things that makes Lovejoy ISD different and uniquely special. So thank you to every single person out there that took the time to write those letters. It's difficult to even express how much those mean because they really mean so much to each and every one of us. And then also wanted to celebrate, as Mr. Parker did, another state championship with that volleyball. And I don't know if you've seen the quote by our head coach, Natalie Puckett, who states, we have a different standard of excellence, and our standard of excellence is a state championship. And so she's been in the press with that very powerful statement. She's an incredible coach and an incredible leader, and we're excited to celebrate the entire volleyball coaching staff and every single one of our volleyball players on that varsity state championship team at our next board meeting. So we look forward to that on December 11th. And then also want to emphasize that invitation for anybody out in our community, whether you have a kiddo in any of the programs or not, please come join us for our Fine Arts Festival. Check out social media. We'll keep posting the schedule for those events. You will be delighted and impressed.
Thank you, Ms. Cordell. Item 25 tonight is public comments related to non-agenda items. Do we have any?
Yes, sir. We do have one public comment related to non-agenda items. I will read our notice here and then get our timer up as well. Do that now. I'm going to go ahead and read this, and I'll call our one comment up. Our Board of Trustees encourages public comment. All comment at a meeting other than a regularly scheduled meeting should be limited to agenda items posted for the meeting. By signing up to provide public comment at a board meeting, you are acknowledging and accepting the procedures for public comment available online at lovejoysc.net, which they filled out. Any individual seeking to speak during the public comment session of a regular board meeting must complete and submit the public comment card
no later than 15 minutes prior to the designated start time of the provided meeting notice, which they did. Public comment cards must be completed in their entirety with accurate and truthful information and must designate whether the speaker is speaking on a specific agenda item. Failure to designate an agenda item relevant to the speaker's comments will result in the classification of a public comment as a non-agenda item, which this is one, to be heard at a later time in the meeting. Public comment cards are only applicable to the meeting in which they are completed and submitted by the established deadline. Each individual will have one opportunity per meeting to share their comments with the Board of Trustees, not multiple opportunities per individual agenda items. If a speaker is not present when his or her name is called, the speaker forfeits the opportunity to speak at that meeting. All speakers will be limited to no more than 3 minutes. The presiding officer reserves the right, which is Mr. Owens, to reduce the number of minutes per speaker to no less than 1 minute per speaker in order to maintain effective meeting management. The speakers will be recognized in order in which each person signs up. If there are more speakers than the allotted for public comment, the amount of time per speaker may be reduced as determined appropriate by the Board of Trustees. If time does not allow for you to speak at public comment, the Board of Trustees may allow additional time for public comment or defer specific agenda items for review at a subsequent meeting in an effort to allow more public comment, as is determined necessary by the Board of Trustees. The public comment card will not be maintained from one meeting to the next, as it's only applicable to a meeting on the date in which it's submitted. If you have a specific concern related to an employee of the district or a specific student issue, you're encouraged to utilize the district's grievance procedures provided in the board policies, BGBA local, F&G local, and GF local, or applicable grievance process. Each grievance procedure allows for an individual to redress grievances with the Board of Trustees. All relevant policies are available online at lovejoyisd.net. Disruptive behavior will not be tolerated at the meeting. If after the provision of a single warning, the disruptive behavior continues, the disruptor individual may be escorted out of the meeting by the district officials and/or law enforcement. It is a criminal offense for any person with intent to prevent or disrupt a lawful meeting to substantially obstruct or interfere with the ordinary conduct of the meeting by physical action or verbal utterance. Lastly, the Board of Trustees appreciates your active participation in the school district. Ms. Ayers, can you please step up to the mic? And Mr. Korb will ensure that your mic is on. Good. Okay. Please state your name, Ms. Ayers, and your address, and also the campuses at which your students attend for our record.
I'm sorry, what was the last part?
The name of what campus your students attend, if applicable, for the record.
So good evening. My name is Shannon Ayers, and I'm the Education Division Lead for Citizens Defending Freedom in Collin County. We've recently been made aware that there's a biological male using a girls' restroom in Lovejoy ISD, and that many female students do not feel comfortable with this, and they also don't feel comfortable reporting it. So I'm here tonight to clarify recent rulings regarding Title IX and to defend the girls and women it is intended to protect. There are a number of progressive organizations that are attempting to pressure school administrators like yourselves to broaden the language of Title IX to include sexual orientation and gender identity. This undermines federal law and the legislative authority of the United States Congress. These organizations, including TASB, are leaning on the misleading guidance of the Department of Education's 2021 Notice of Interpretation in conjunction with President Biden's executive order on the Supreme Court ruling in Bostock v. Clayton County. It must be noted that the court clearly stated Bostock was a Title VII issue that did not apply to Title IX or any other law. The Supreme Court in Bostock emphasized that sex-based employment discrimination consistent with Title VII was unconstitutional. However, they explicitly refrained from applying their ruling to Title IX. Therefore, the Department of Education's NOI and the executive order are null because it expressly contradicts Supreme Court precedent. There have also been a handful of cases further demonstrating the Bostock ruling does not apply to Title IX issues. The recent federal district court's rulings prevent the Biden administration's NOI and executive order from taking effect in 20 states, including Texas. Additionally, a federal district court in Texas affirmed that sexual orientation and gender identity are not protected categories because Title IX must be read in the original context in which it was drafted in 1972, where sex was understood to be biological and binary. In the Bostock case, the Supreme Court stated that the people's representatives are the ones who must amend Title IX, so therefore only Congress can amend Title IX. I ask you to consider this information while contemplating how to address the current situation in your district, and before acting on the coercive tactics by organizations intentionally misapplying Title IX to push a political agenda that would eradicate Title IX's sex-specific protections. Female students have the right to privacy in bathrooms and locker rooms. Female students have the right to participate in sporting activities against biologically female athletes only. I strongly encourage you to create board policy that clearly states that students must use the bathroom associated with their sex or gender on their birth certificate. I have copies of a fact sheet as well as a timeline of legal developments that I'd like to leave with you tonight so that you can reference them for later if you need to. And if you don't know who we are, you can find out more about us at citizensdefendingfreedom.com. That's it. Thank you so much. And who do I give these to?
You can give them to me and I will pass them out to the board.
Okay.
And for the record, Ms. Ayers resides in Frisco, Texas and does not have any students at Lovejoy ISD. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. President Owens, that's all the public comments we have for this evening regarding non-agenda items.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
And with that, we would be adjourned.